brake pads, or whatever those things are. Bits and pieces.
Yep. It's time for another Wild Time to let you know where we're at and what we've been up to. Well, we're currently somewhere a lot cooler than where we've been, and there is a good bit of fresh air here, and we needed that a lot. We're on the southern Oregon coast.
What we've been up to is not what we had planned to be up to. We've actually been dealing with a near catastrophic brake failure issue, among other things, and we're going to share those in this video.
So our plan was to head out of the southwest a month early, which would have been April 1st instead of May 1st like normal.
Which happens to be April Fool's Day, but more on that later.
Yeah, so we had gotten down into the southwest a month early, which was in August, which was still quite hot for living and traveling in an RV. So we planned to get out sooner, so we headed out on the 1st of April.
Yeah, and I typically will get out and watch as Bernie's pulling out of whatever spot we're parked in, and as he pulled forward, I noticed that one of the wheels on the RV was not turning. It was just dragging. So I immediately started yelling, "Stop, stop, stop!" And we thought, well, maybe something was stuck, so he backed up. It rolled, so we tried again, rolled forward. It rolled this time, so we thought, okay, well, now we're off.
Yeah, maybe it was something simple that just went away. Usually doesn't happen that way, does it? So I pulled out a little bit, and I did check the emergency brake to make sure that wasn't stuck, and just some of the typical things that were easy to check. And everything seemed to check out okay, and it was rolling good, and we watched it for a while. And we got about 3 miles down the road, and I was about to make a left hand to turn down to get onto the freeway to start our journey. And I happened to notice smoke pouring out of the back tire area, and it looked like it was on fire to me. It was just so much smoke. And I went ahead and threw it in park out in the center lane. And fortunately, there wasn't much traffic, so I was able to walk back there, take a look at it, and sure enough, I just smell the brake and whatever else was burning up in there. And so we were stuck there in the middle of the road, but like I said, there wasn't much traffic, so we waited it out for about 30 minutes till it could get it cooled down enough to back up about 40 feet and pull into a semi-large parking lot where we rested for a while.
Yeah, and since it was April Fool's Day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had told family and friends about the incident, and everybody, of course, thought I was, kidding, and yeah, sure, April Fools, and then, a couple of them started thinking, like my sister thought, well, no, he wouldn't do April Fools about that, and I think everyone started catching on. There was a couple that were not quite some of my friends that thought I was still pulling thetheir leg, but yeah. I wasn't, and I assured everybody that I wouldn't do it about something like that. I did make one time that Susan had to go to jail, but that's a long story. I'll tell you that some other time. But anyway, yeah, everybody just thought it was April Fool's, so we had to recompose ourselves and get busy looking for stuff. Yeah,
started making some calls and ended up calling a park that we'd stayed at, and we had no idea what exactly was wrong, how long it was going to take to fix it, were parts going to need to be ordered, what the situation was. We figured, well, we need to allow at least a couple of weeks, and it turned out, a couple of weeks was actually going to be more than just paying for a month at a spot. So there we were, stuck for a month trying to get this and some other things resolved.
So when we settled into our monthly spot, the first order of business was to remove the tire and have a look at the brake and find out what was going on.
Yeah, and a tip here might be as when you are taking the tires off, in our instance, Bernie had just put brand new tires on the RV, so we had the tires off. But the brakes are the drum brakes that you can't really see unless you take them off. So a tip might be is when you're changing the tires, go ahead and take those off and take a look at the brakes, even if it doesn't seem like it should be time to replace them.
Yeah, it was over 100 and I was changing tires already, and I just didn't do it, and frankly I think I just convinced myself it wasn't time, and and this and that, and I didn't hear any, I didn't have any of the typical signs that you do, and it's a lot easier to hear them when it's in your vehicle, but when it's in a tow vehicle like that way behind, you just got to be more proactive, live and learn. So anyway, I took off the drum of the culprit, and immediately the brake pad just crumbled and fell. I could see some other distressing things in there that made me happy that I wasn't at a shop, that I was doing the work myself, because it was embarrassing, because I had no clue that they had gotten that bad, and it was bad. So I went ahead and ended up taking off the other 4. And by the way, another tip is when you're jacking this up, don't rely on your stabilizer jacks or jacking up underneath the axle. I've done both, I'll admit, but it's not a good idea. I mean, you don't want to find out, but it's definitely not a good idea. So yeah, you want to do it properly anyway. So when I got them all off, and I was able to see that they were all pretty bad, just each one of them just had something that made me just shudder to think of how we were on the road. I mean, we would have been probably in a catastrophic accident, and maybe even harmed other people or whatever, and certainly would have harmed, at the very least, our home on wheels. But yeah, it was just so catastrophically horrible, and I'm just embarrassed about it. But we ended up finding a place to go get the parts, and getting them fashioned, like the kits, instead of all the different pieces, the bearings and the seals and all that stuff. Getting them pre-greased and everything seemed to be the best way to go. It was just a little bit more money. It actually probably would have been a wash once you consider all the things that I would had to have purchased and everything. So another good tip is to know what type of brakes before you get there. I started doing some research. I wasn't very familiar with the self-adjusting brakes. These are electric and they're self-adjusting, so we had to make sure we get that, because they look identical other than that self-adjusting feature. So yeah, it's a little bit of electrical work, and then just putting them on as the kits was a lot easier. So we just got all 4 of them. Took a few days, and it was extremely hot. It was over 100 degrees, and it wasn't fun, but it was satisfying. I think the most unsatisfying thing, other than the work, was the fact that, when I used to change them on a car, I would back up and immediately know, how to adjust and all that stuff. With these, you're supposed to drive, and we weren't planning on driving for a month, because we decided to do a whole lot more projects. Yeah, since we were there for a month, it just made sense to work on some other things while we were there. But there was always that kind of lingering anxiety in the background of, did this fix it? Do they work? So. Oh, yeah. Yep. So as with every bad thing, there's usually some good things to be counted in that, and we were very grateful that this happened when it did and where it did, because it could have been so much worse with all the mountain passes that we would have been going over. This took place just 3 miles from where we could go back and camp. It allowed us to spend more time with family and friends. So, always look for the good in things, because there was certainly a lot to concentrate on. Yeah, and it wasn't super, super hot there yet, and it did allow us to avoid some really bad weather up north here. The month of April was very, very wet, so we did avoid that, as well as it gave us some time once the brakes were in order to work on a few other projects that we had. Yeah, we had just put in a new toilet, for example, not too long ago, and the floor flange and the seal and different things like that, just regular things, I guess, that break down. We had a headlight that was just retaining moisture no matter what, even though it was over 100 degrees for a long time, it still would retain moisture, and so I was able to take off the front end of the truck to fix that, and got that done. And then another thing was our awning hadn't been in good shape for quite a while. The hem had come out of it, and so just from the time that we'd had it, 9 years, so it was time to replace it. So we spent a little bit of time doing that, which was wonderful. We didn't get to use our awning much in the Southwest because of the wind, of all things. It's just too windy to have it out. We could anchor it and do all these things, but it just wasn't practical when you're on the go. So it was just lovely now to have a functional awning.
Yeah, and we're actually in a spot now where we are able to put it out and use it. So it's very nice that we have a new awning.
Yes. So what's next? Well, we definitely want to make more videos. We're always thinking about doing it, and we have been shooting several. So we actually got some partially produced. So those should be forthcoming, and we're excited about doing this. And we should have a lot more time now. Yeah,
since we got some of these big projects out of the way, hopefully we'll have a lot more time to work on videos.
Yeah, we'll figure everything out as we go. In the meantime, just stay connected.
Yeah, please remember to share, subscribe, and click on that little notification bell.
Thanks for watching. Just got a boat. It's a little bit of a fixer-upper, but I think it'll be fine.